Hi, everyone, and welcome to my review of Love Victor Season 2. So, this year, thank goodness we got a Season 2, and we've had to wait a whole year. I think a lot of that was due to COVID, but honestly, I don't know when they would have normally brought out Season 2. Maybe 6 months, something like that. So, I'm hoping we get a Season 3 because I did enjoy it very much, as with Season 1, but I actually like Season 2 better, and I'll talk about that. But I hope we get a season 3 and that we only maybe wait 6 months. So maybe we see it in January or something. That would be nice. But let's talk about what I liked about it and some of what I didn't like. Any show, no show is perfect. So there's going to be things you like and you don't like. So, first of all, I like that it was a more mature Love Victor. They switched from Disney Plus originally being made for Disney Plus, to Hulu, and this time they knew it was going to be on Hulu, so they were able to do more mature themes. And these are Victor and Benji should be 17 at this point. I know they said in the show 16, but Victor turned 16 last summer, so he should be 17 when they go back to school this year. So I really like that they utilize the move to Hulu and the fact that he's 17 to have more mature and more realistic interactions because most 17-year-olds, or at least some of them, are indeed having sexual activities or sex itself. And you don't have to push that, and I don't think they did for the most part, but that it's in the stories makes sense. And by the way, if it's going to be in the stories for the straight characters, then it should also be for the gay characters. I mean, it's just realistic, as I said. Also, they used a lot of the other characters so well this year. For instance, Felix, first of all, my one of my favorite characters on the show is Felix, and I really love the portrayal that Anthony brings to that role. And him and his mother had a very powerful story this year, and it was so well done by the writers and the actors. I think that it was very heartwarming and at times heartbreaking. I know at the end of the one episode where Felix came back to the Salazar's house and asked if he could stay with them, and he broke down crying, was just, I think a lot of us broke down with him. I know I did. It was just very touching. So, it was so well acted. Also, Pilar has grown a lot in the last year. And I mean, it's just amazing what they did with the character this year. So, again, I think that's progress in that regard. And she is able to, actress, is able to bring a lot to that role as a young woman or young girl at this point. I'm not sure how old she's supposed to be. I think a couple years younger than Victor. So, I would definitely consider her a girl still. Um, Andrew, the character of Andrew, has really grown on me, and he just seemed like kind of a jock last year that was stereotypical and you know a jerk, and he really changed up this year. The writers changed him up and made him a more three-dimensional character, I thought, and I really liked what they did with him, and the actor's doing a great job. As far as Lake, I really enjoy the character of Lake. I think she's great. BB is a great actress, and I've watched her since The New Normal when she was in that, and that's a great show if you haven't seen it, by the way. But she's such a good character in this show, and I think that her and Felix were good together. And spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it yet, there will be spoilers in this review. Then the first one I would mention is that they break up in this season, and I don't know that that's permanent, but I think that I'm sorry to see that happen. Although I do feel like Felix and Pilar are an interesting couple and have some really good chemistry. But I think Lake and him did too. And they when they in the one, I think it was episode 4, when they had sex for the first time at the lake or the pond, whatever that was. I guess it was a lake. Um, it was just a really well done scene again. I mean, I just think the writers have really knocked it out of the park in some of these parts of this. So another part that I really liked is, the reaction by his parents was realistic, and I think the fact that his mother was not the most accepting and has had issues with it throughout most of the season again, very realistic. I mean, the fact that she comes to terms with it as soon as she does is even a little bit unrealistic. But when you're doing a show of only 10 episodes, 30 minutes approximately each, which, by the way, that's one of my dislikes, is I don't think this show should only be 10 episodes, 30 minutes each. If you want to stick with the 30 minutes, that's fine, but maybe 18 episodes, 20 episodes? Why does it have to only be 10? I don't get that. That's just definitely a dislike. I would like more of Love Victor. And I think it's very popular, so I don't know why they don't do more. But there must be a reason. I don't know. Maybe partially because it's on Hulu and they don't do 23 episodes or something. But how about 15? Let's compromise. So, but back to the things I like. The dad's reaction was very nice and very, non-stereotypical. And especially him taking it upon himself to look up an organization like PFLAG, which has been around for many years and is a real organization, if anyone doesn't know that, and is in most big cities. I don't know about smaller areas, but we have one of those here in Indy, and it's just a great organization from what I understand. I've never been myself because I don't need to go, but I'm glad it's there for people who really need it. And then the progression with not Felix, Victor's mother, I do like the way that even though it's in a condensed 10 episode, like if you look at that as had that been a realistic, I don't know, year, let's say it was a year's time frame, which it's not. I think it was fairly realistic that within the 10 episodes, how they did that. So I do like that part as well. I think her, by the way, confrontation, if you want to call it that, or whatever, talk with that priest towards the end of the season, where she kind of tells him off for telling the little brother, Adrian, that Victor was going to go to hell, which, keep in mind, a lot of people do believe that. And they're not just talking about gay people, they're talking about any quote-unquote sinners. Now, I don't look at it that way myself, obviously. I don't think being gay is a sin, or even acting on being gay is a sin. But a lot of people think that, and they think sinners are going to hell. So it's not just about gay people. But in this case it was, and of course that was very insulting to her, and she didn't take kindly to it, especially with him telling the little boy that, which is pretty tacky. He doesn't need to say it like that. So sometimes religious people and non-religious people can be very blunt and not take into account who they're talking to or how that will affect them. Believe me, I know that from personal experience over the years. But when she especially said towards the end of their conversation, I'm not giving up on God, I'm giving up on you, I loved that. I thought that was so good. Bravo, writers and the actress. So good job on that. And then also, I really love the relationship. Let's talk about Victor and Benji themselves. I love the relationship they have when they're not fighting. Unfortunately, there's a lot of fighting in this season. And in a way that's realistic, but I think it's like almost a bit too much, in my opinion. So, but when they're not fighting, I love the, tenderness and the way you can tell they really love each other. And they did say, by the way, that they loved each other about the 4th episode, I think it was, when they actually said it. And like Lake and Felix, they also did it for the first time in that sex cabin episode, I believe it was, which makes sense. That's why there's the title is what it's called. And, it took some getting to it, and they showed that it can be scary and that not everybody knows what they're doing. And so I just love the way they handled that, and that the guys actually got to do it finally. Because one thing I will say is it's not very realistic for two guys to not have sex pretty quickly in most cases. Now, maybe it's just certain kinds of sex, but they will have some kind of sex pretty quickly usually. Okay, other things that I liked was Victor's school coming out scene where he got on the chair and just kind of casually announced it and said, we won't be taking questions right now, and then got down and took Benji's hand and all that. That was so, I loved it. Loved it. I wish every gay person could have a scene like that. And sometimes we still hear, well, why is it even important to tell everyone? It is important because people need to know who they know that's gay so that if they have negative feelings or are hateful, they realize who that's being against. So I just think it's so important, and that's why we've made the progress we have in the gay community, is because over the years people have been willing to come out. It's still important, let me tell you. And it's not always easy, like they said. For one thing, many times in many schools, the reaction would be much different, and many families, the reaction would be much worse. So, this is still a pretty good reaction, especially at school. Now, some of the things where the people came to and asked about skincare and clothing choices and fashion, well, I don't know if that's realistic or not, but it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't mean, keep in mind, not every gay person, especially guys, are going to be good at those things. Some are, some aren't. So just like everybody else. Um, okay, and a few more likes that I want to add. Victor's honesty finally with Mia. They took forever for them to get to talk about everything, but she asked him, "Did you know you were gay while you were dating me?" And he said, pretty much yes. He realized it way early on, and yet he kept dating her. And so last year, when I reviewed season one, I got a little bit of um, flack, we'll call it, because I said I thought he went on way too long with Mia. Well, I stand by that. I think he did go way too long with Mia, knowing he had feelings for guys. And when you are 16, you generally know who you're attracted to. So it's very unusual, and it's not unheard of, but it's unusual for people to not have a clear sense of who they're attracted to at that point. That's all I'm saying. Now, that doesn't mean if you want to experiment or make sure, go for it. But most of us are sure at that point. So when I was 16, believe me, I had no doubt in my mind. I was not interested in girls. I was very interested in guys. So there was no doubt. So, however, not everyone's the same. So I understand that. And then Felix's humor, I want to add, is, even last season I mentioned this, I believe too, but it's just the humor in that character. Some of the accents he does and just some of the lines. And by the way, that's partially why when he lost it and was so emotional about his mother being in that hospital, um, it was so, it just tore at your heart. But, the other thing about his mother being in the hospital I wanted to mention was I understand why he felt the way he did, and I probably would have felt the same way in his position, but I'm sorry that he broke up with Lake over it, because Lake really had the best intentions. And should she have told her mother? Maybe, maybe not. But in some cases, you do what you think is the best for the better of the situation, or for that person's own good. So yeah, I think that. Now, when we compare that to Victor telling Raheem about Benji's problems with alcohol and being in AA, that is totally different. That was totally out of line and unnecessary, and there was no good reason to do that. So I think it's two way different things. The last thing I want to mention under likes is, at one point I saw in, now I'm trying to remember whose room this was. I think it was Victor's room, but Felix was in it at the time, so that's what's confusing me. But I'm pretty sure it was Victor's room. There was a War for the Planet of the Apes poster on the wall. And I was like, oh, I love it, because, I'm a huge Planet of the Apes fan, so I loved seeing that there. It's very cool. Okay, now let's talk about some of the things I didn't like. And there's not that many, but let's talk about them. So first of all, I'm sorry, but it's just still, this story is too much about Mia. This is not the Mia show. This is not Love Mia. So why do we need to know all this stuff about Mia and focus so much on her family? I think if we would focus less on Mia, she should be a supporting character, and she's being treated almost like she's a character in the forefront. And I just don't think this season that's the case. Last season she was. But yeah, we saw way too much about Mia and her family, and it took time away from Victor and Benji that I would have rather seen. So I just have to put that out there. And then I mentioned this before, but I feel like, okay, it's one thing to have teen drama and for Benji and Victor to fight here and there, but they fought too damn much. for this season. This should have been like their season of love, and maybe fight at the end. But yeah, in my opinion, way too much fighting. And there was times when I thought Victor was attacking Benji for no good reason, and there was times when I thought Benji was totally overacting with Victor. So, I just think that's the writing, of course, but in that case, I don't like what they did. Also, I understand this is more adult, but you don't have to say the word shit or anything like it every 5 minutes. And, and I think they use that word too much only because they could. And also, in one scene, I remember towards the beginning of one episode, Victor said that word 4 or 5 times in like a span of a minute. And I understand why he said it, but it's just not necessary, in my opinion. Um, so at one point, Benji said, "I don't think I could ever give up on you, or even if I tried, or even if I wanted to." I really liked that, but it wasn't true. So he did give up on him later. So that was unfortunate that he did, but I understand it. Also, I have to say that I think, regardless, I realize this is a TV show and it's the Hollywood version of how things work, so it's not always realistic. But I think there's just an unrealistic portrayal of the acceptance of gay people. I mean, Victor goes up and during a basketball game break and kisses Benji right on the sidelines, and nobody has an issue with that. I mean, obviously they didn't poll the audience in the gym. I mean, but it just nobody has a reaction, and it's just totally fine. I don't know. Maybe things are more progressed than I think, but I don't think that's realistic. And that's just one scene. I mean, they can kiss in the middle of the coffee shop. They can do whatever, and nobody seems to even notice. I mean, I know this is supposed to be a big city, but still, yeah, that seems unrealistic. As far as PFLAG, I mentioned that I'm really glad they brought that up and they utilized that organization because it's a real organization, but they didn't do enough about what PFLAG does. I mean, how does it work? Or, if you're going to bring up PFLAG, I'd say spend a little bit of time on that and less time on Mia and her issues and her dad and all that. Um, so, yeah. And then, speaking of that, there's just not enough Benji scenes. I mean, we got a couple scenes with his family, which I was not fond of the casting for his parents, to be honest. I thought they didn't seem like a realistic pair together. And the mother seemed older than the father to me, and the father didn't seem. I don't like the casting of the parents. But I do like that parents were there and we saw some of that. By the way, another like would be I love the scene where Victor and Benji are trying to get some alone time and they keep getting interrupted. And lock the damn doors, guys. Good Lord, do none of these bedrooms have locks on them? Not at Benji's house, not at Victor's house? Come on. You're going to sit there and try to do something while your parents are in the other room or downstairs. Or they could come home at any time and open the door. Lock the doors or put a chair under the knob. I can't believe that. I mean, that's got to be just for storyline purposes. But and then there was, to me, just a couple more things, a little bit of generalizations of Benji and his bandmates towards sports jocks or others like that who play sports. It's I think that was a little unrealistic. I mean, and then for them to be so harsh about it in front of Benji, who they know is a sports person and playing basketball, so that seemed strange to me. And then I have to say, I was glad to see the actor who plays Simon at the end of the episode 10, talking to Victor, and Victor kind of saying thank you, but I'm done. I'm ready to work on my own now, or move forward on my own. But damn, I didn't like his look. What the hell happened? I didn't like that look on him. And it didn't seem to fit the character of Simon, I mean. Now, for the real person, if that's how he wants to look, that's fine. But that just was weird. And a lot of people are saying he seemed unhappy. I don't know. I kind of got that impression, but maybe he was just adjusting to what Victor was saying. I'm not sure. As far as the ending, I have to say that I hope he chooses Benji, because I really want to see more of them together. As far as the character of Raheem, who I forgot to mention under my likes, love, love, love the character of Raheem. and the actor who's portraying him, Anthony Cavon, I think is his name. He is a. I saw some interviews with him, and he's a really interesting young man. And I thought he did so well in that portrayal, and I love what he brings to it. I don't know if he was trying to get Victor the whole time or not, but it's an interesting love triangle, and I think they could have some fun together while him and Benji are broken up. There would be nothing wrong with that. Just get to know each other better, maybe date some, see where that goes. But I'd really like him to get back together with Benji for now. These are not the only three gay guys in the city, so Raheem can find someone else, and they can be just good friends. They do make great friends, him and Benji, so he can be a little bit of a bad influence at times, but I think he's good in a lot of other ways. So we'll see what happens. We can't wait for season 3, but now we've got Felix and Pilar together, and we'll see who Victor chose. But like someone said, I don't think it's Raheem, because Raheem wouldn't have been home by then. Somebody also said he went to see Simon. Well, I don't know, but I don't know where Simon is right now. But I don't remember if he said in that clip or not. But it's such a great show, guys. And if you haven't watched it, I highly suggest watching Love, Victor. I would say start with season 1, and they're only 10 episodes, 30 minutes. So you can get through both seasons pretty quickly. I really tried to space it out because I didn't want to watch it all at once. So I watched it over 3 days, 3 episodes, 4 episodes, 3 episodes. And now I've watched most of them again to just, do this review. So anyway, the bottom line is I love the show. I would still give it an A- overall for season 2 for the reasons I just went through. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.